Yes, people, good evening. It is Tom Sykes, the Royalist here with my old chum, Paula Froelich, for the Royalist After Show. Hey, Paula, how you doing?
Hello, friend. How are you?
I am super good. I'm kind of just unwinding, just chilling down now. A
Mhm.
lot of excitement and pressure yesterday getting ready for the show. And I thought it went really well. And me and Paula thought it'd be fun to do a kind of after show thing and pick through it and dissect. I mean, there's just so much to talk about from Matt's interview, wasn't there?
Oh my gosh, there was. And there not only that, Tom, but Matt's interview gave me so many other stories. I was listening to him, and there were several points, and I went, hold on, he's right. Wait a minute. Hold up. And we're going to get into all of those, but just for everyone to know, what I'm super interested in is what Matt said about how long Netflix has been sitting on this. Number two, it's not an original idea. Number three, they might not even have the rights to it. And exactly what Harry and Meghan are going to be doing with this, because once again, Tom, they've overstated it.
It wouldn't be the first time, would it, that they've overstated something, Paula? Yeah, so Matt Donnelly is the chief correspondent of Variety. He was on the Royalist podcast last night, and he wrote this amazing story in Variety saying that basically people in Hollywood were sick of dealing with Harry and Meghan, that Netflix was sick of dealing with them, that they were a pain in the hole, that they hadn't made the money that they were meant to make, that, everybody had had enough, it was tiresome, it was exhausting, etc., etc. And literally 3 days before the piece came out, Harry and Meghan's guys announced that Cookie Queens had been picked up for distribution by a small, but as Matt said, a cool company called Roadside Attractions, but hardly Netflix with this gigantic reach. And 2 days after the story came out, suddenly there was this big, Polo 2 has been picked up by Netflix. Netflix are going to make this new fictional drama. Harry and Meghan are going to be executive producers. We love Harry and Meghan. Matt Donnelly's full of SH1T. And it was a very clear attempt to discredit a brilliant and very respected reporter. And it backfired horribly when Matt came on my show yesterday, didn't it, Paula?
It absolutely did. And I just have a point to make about Cookie Queens because, again, a lot of people might not know this. I've gotten some comments saying, hey, out of the blue, you're everywhere talking about the Royals. And that is because I just really joined YouTube a couple months ago. I've been doing it for travel stuff, but I have been covering the Royals for many years, but I've been covering Hollywood specifically for over 25 years. And when you have a first look deal, as Harry and Meghan did with Netflix, and they don't pick it up, that's not good. The only reason they were asked to be on it is so that it could get in the door of Netflix. Then when you go to Sundance and you don't sell at Sundance, which was in February, that is also not good. And then months later, it's like sloughing it off to anyone who will take it. Not a lot of money, not a lot of anything. And frankly, their involvement was a bust. So, yes, they might have gotten a bite. It was a desperate last minute bite, Tom, but it was not a huge big deal. So, once again, smoke and mirrors.
Ben, could we look at maybe the first clip that we're going to look at tonight and then play that and then we'll have a chat about it? This is the after show for the Royalist podcast. You're very welcome. I'm sorry we started a few minutes early. It's very unlike us to start early, but here we are. Okay, here we go. Great. You have an amazing detail in your piece that when Meghan got annoyed in a Zoom meeting, she'd turn her camera off. And Matt, in your Variety piece, the theme that really jumped out seemed to be how incredibly difficult the Sussexes are to work with. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think that when you do high flying business in Hollywood with very very powerful cultural figures, there's always going to be a getting to know you period, especially when those figures don't come from Hollywood itself. While Megan spent many years as a network television recurring guest star actress, I think that the level of their ambition when they moved to the States in 2020 and set out to build a media and entertainment empire, was quite just that. It was very ambitious. So I think that what we've seen over the past 5.5 years in their partnership with Netflix is a lot of false starts and a lot of gum in the machinery to properly help launch them as mini media moguls, which I think my piece proves has yet to happen.
Of course, the Sussexes, you may be aware.
That is fascinating. You and I have talked about this before, Tom, but the juice ain't worth the squeeze on that one, if you know what I mean. And again, if you make a gazillion dollars, if Tom Cruise wants to act like a big old jerk and be weird, guess what? He has do, because Tom Cruise delivers. Meghan and Harry have yet to deliver on one thing. And in fact, at this point, it is starting to almost feel like they have the reverse Midas touch, as if all goodness is sucked out of something if anyone touches it, and it all goes to their own publicity and to their own press.
Yeah, and just in the interest of balance, after I did the podcast with Matt yesterday, of course, went to the Sussexes and asked them for comment. They didn't want to speak on the record, but somebody in their operation said to me that the Sussexes' first look deal with Netflix is, quotes, very much active, close quotes, and said that Archewell, open quotes, has office space, close quotes, in a Netflix building not downtown, a Netflix building in Los Angeles. They weren't exactly sure where, but were keen to make the point that Archewell still consider themselves part of the Netflix family. So just putting their response in there, Paula.
100%. And I agree with you calling, and thank you for that. But I will add that, of course, they still have a Netflix deal. Of course they do. Because should there be any drop of juice to squeeze, they want it first. Should there be a Diana doc? Should there be, God forbid, a divorce, which I don't think will happen? Should there be a reconciliation with the family? Of course, Netflix wants it. And by the way, it is no skin off anyone's back to have a first look deal. Netflix doesn't really have to pay any cash. And Harry and Meghan can still say that they're involved with a big, huge professional streamer. Number two, Archewell. Well, that's the problem. You can have an office. How big is it? How many people are in that office? Because I don't know, Tom, the last time I checked, everyone major had quit. Yes, two whole people. Two people does not a production company make. It is more a label. It is more a, vanity project. So, okay, how big your office and what closet is it in?
Actually, Matt made this really interesting point in the interview. I'm not sure whether we could find it, Ben, but he said something along the lines of Netflix are in the business of talent management. He was like, if you really think about what their business really is, it's the business of talent management. And I think he said, I'm sure Bella and Ted have a very friendly and cordial relationship with Meghan and Harry, but that is not the relationship that people who had to work with them every day had with them. And he just said, look, Bella and Ted, you don't talk smack about talent, I think was how he put it. In Hollywood. It's just not what's done. Actually, don't bother trying to find that, Ben. Just stick to the clips that we have. That's fine. Let's look at another clip if we can, please, Ben. Your choice, dealer's choice. So bring us something up, and I'm sure we can chat about it.
The manufacturer. Netflix paid for the manufacturing. Netflix paid for the shipping. Netflix paid for the branding. Netflix paid for, this is a massive investment. So if if they are going from success to success, to record-breaking jam hall to record-breaking jam hall, why then after a year does Netflix ban? Doesn't that contradict the responsibility they have for shareholders, which is to provide value? It defies common sense.
Absolutely. And I remember that
Mhm.
piece with Ted Sarandos where he said that the As Ever store and Netflix house would be expressions of fandom, I think was the phrase he used to you, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
And is that ultimately the problem, that the fandom isn't there, that, people kind of like George Clooney, right? They kind of think he's cool. Like, do we like Meghan? Do we like Harry?
Yeah. Oh, Tom, that was a good one because I think the answer is a resounding no. And not to mention, the other thing that's going on right now is their numbers are in the toilet. What Netflix is doing by keeping them in the stable is taking them off the buffet for other people. Not that other people want them right now, but should you look at Mad Men, for example? Somebody very high up at HBO got fired because he passed on Mad Men and it went to AMC. AMC, whatever. It went to another network. And that's what nobody wants. They don't want something to go to another place, even though everyone thinks, they're kind of crap. Well, guess what? If they go and hang out with the king at Sandringham, if they do whatever, if they ever see the royal family again, that's Harry and Meghan's sequel too. And Harry and Meghan on Netflix, the docuseries was the biggest production ever for Netflix.
Yes. And Matt did make that point. That, of course, they had this resounding success with that property. And I think he said it was the property that everybody in Hollywood wanted at the time of COVID. I had this viewer, Diane Banquet, who gave me permission to read out some of this. She just made such an incredibly incisive comment. And we love your comments. And if they're really good, we read them out. So she's from Vancouver. She has some reservations about the Invictus Games. She praises Matt. And she says, something he said really stuck out to me today. He said when he had interviewed Meghan 4 years ago for an article, as they were at the beginning of their career post-royal family, Meghan said they wanted to tell stories based from the lens of seeing everything through the eyes of their love story. Comparing it to how the Obamas undertake everything they do based on the lens of how they see the world, their morals and their values, it makes sense and thus would easily create a very authentic voice. I think Matt actually finally hit the nerve of why Meghan has failed so terribly with audiences and the market. Her entire business model and reason for being, she says, is set from the lens of their love story. But we've since learned that she was a gold digger who set her sights on him, pretended she lived in South Africa, was not into showbiz, fame and fortune. We now know this was a lie. She pulled a bait and switch on him. So there was no authentic and true love story at the core of it. It was manipulative, fake and inauthentic love story. So if her project's content and business approach is based on their love story, that would explain why all the content projects land as manipulative, fake and inauthentic. And I just thought, oh my God, I messaged her back. And I said, this is such a brilliant comment. Can I have your permission to steal it, please? And she said yes. And it really struck a chord with me because it's absolutely true. It's the authenticity gap that we've seen, whether it's with lifting the jam out of the jam pot with the jam tongs the wrong way round, saying that you're against social media while being all over it. And at the core of it, it's like, yeah, oh, I'm just into this amazing love story. And we know because of Tom Bauer's book particularly and Valentine's Lowe's books, very well-researched books, that the way that she wooed Harry was not authentic. And that, I thought it was such an interesting point that there is just this massive, and they're often compared, and Matt actually compares them to the Obamas. But the difference, as Diane makes clear in that comment, with the Obamas is that at the Obamas there is, like them or loathe them, a core of authenticity, that they are doing what they believe in, whether or not you hate them or you think they're fantastic. That's not really the issue. The issue is that what lots of people, what you need to be if you are going to construct a business around yourself is to be very authentic to yourself, and she's not.
Yeah, no, and I, as you know, I spent 2 nights finishing Tom Bower's book, and it goes through lie after lie, or I'm sorry, her truth versus the actual truth over and over. You know, and of course there are the simplest things of like, I never even Googled him. Girl, please. You know, everyone knows, even a 2-year-old would know that that is inauthentic and hashtag not true. But it even goes now to this, we're saying love story. All right, we got Polo. That's great. Meghan hates Polo. She never showed up to matches unless cameras were there. You could not get her to go see Polo. She would just be like, you go do your thing. Ugh, I'm not doing this. And to be fair, I've been to many Polo matches. Not many, not like the Brits, but I've been to more than 2 hands. And it is a little, I'm over it, you know? But then again, I'm not a sports girl. But going back to the series, she's now like, we're doing Polo. And it's just kind of like, girl, please. But the other thing, Tom, that really stuck out to me with Matt and with the Tom Bower book is that she's authentically no one, because every idea she's ever had has come from something else or someone else. Her cooking show with Love Meghan, the tagline was swiped from an African American chef. Everything comes from someone else, and she tries to make it her own, as ever wants to be Goop. And it's very, very frustrating. I would like to talk about Polo, frankly, Tom. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with Julie Cooper. I love her. And she also, if anyone is of a certain age, remembers Julie Cooper, they will remember that Julie Cooper wrote a book called Polo that was about warring families, all this sort of sex, upstairs, downstairs. Does that sound familiar, Tom?
It does sound rather familiar, Paula. Why could that be? Please tell.
I'm not sure. Well, you know, I will say that at least Harry and Meghan, their series will be set in Wellington, Florida, not England. So check on that. But the bigger issue is Julie Cooper had her book Writers, which was about sex and show jumping, turned into a TV show. And she was also going to have Polo turned into a TV show in 1993. That never happened. The rights were eventually scooped up in 2016 by a British company called Film Wave. So I'm wondering if Harry and Meghan could be facing yet another lawsuit. Do they actually have the rights free and clear? Because we know Meghan likes to get out ahead of herself a little bit. American Riviera Orchard, as ever, had some trademarking problems. So do they even have the rights is my question.
And of course, Matt had a lot to say. One of the real things that I felt, I mean, I spoke to him before the interview, obviously, just on email, and I could tell from his emails that he was really annoyed at the way that they'd attempted to make out that he was like a bad reporter and didn't have proper sources by dropping this thing 2 days after the interview came out, saying that Polo 2, this fictional series that Paul is referring to, that may or may not be based on the works of Julie Cooper, but is set in Wellington, Florida. This was announced like 2 to 3 days after that interview came out. And it was like specifically people on their side, specifically brief journalists saying the fact that this has been picked up shows that the haters are wrong, shows that Tom Bower's wrong, the relationship is still really strong, etc., etc., etc. But what Matt Donnelly explained in our interview was that he believes that the timing of that announcement was at best disingenuous. Have a look at this.
Side, you know, Variety, we believe in journalism, and journalism is representing all sides of the story, but sticking true and believing our incredibly well-placed sources on this story. But let's take Polo for an example. In the days following the publication of my original report, It's announced that Netflix is in development with a show with Meghan and Harry and two very prolific producers, Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage, responsible for the Gossip Girl reboot, as well as a new writer. This was announced, and obviously as a response to our reporting that the temperature for the couple has changed inside the building. No one cares to work with them anymore, and they really don't have any ideas outside of their own personal story. I can tell you, per two sources, that this concept, a scripted drama around of two warring Polo dynasties set in Florida, was first floated in late 2023 after Archewell Productions had a creative change and a notable Hollywood executive named Ben Browning left the company as head of scripted and unscripted projects. A new wave of creatives came in, and this is one of their first ideas. They even engaged Josh Schwartz at the time to talk about potentially coming on as a producer showrunner. Now, what's fascinating to me is that almost 3 years after that idea and that package floated inside the Archewell offices at Netflix, the offices that Netflix pay for, suddenly there's such a fever around the Polo drama that they absolutely could not resist Netflix but to pick this title up for development.
Well, I do think that possibly Matt Donnelly lost his calling as a actor himself because I love the way he goes, suddenly there was such a fever for this. It's brilliantly put. But he really explains it really well there, doesn't he? Paula, tell me something. They're named as executive producers on this project that's been gathering dust for 3 years and has now mysteriously materialized. Oh, I must just tell you, sorry, one thing again. Sussex do actually have a response to this claim by Matt Donnelly. They said that the story was broken by Deadline independently, that it was nothing to do with them, that they didn't put the intel out, that Deadline somehow just got hold of the story and rang for comment, and that they just had to reply, that they did not put out this announcement. They did not, they did not seek to do this. It was just a mad coincidence that Deadline happened to get this story.
I have 2 words for that. Girl, please. And if you believe that, I got a Birds to sell you in Brooklyn.
Well, that's their on the record response, just for the nature of it. But Paula, tell me this: what does, because as you say, you've been reporting on Hollywood for 25 years. Me and Paula worked together like 30 years ago at Page Six, and Paula's real specialism at that time, you were reporting on all the TV shows that were going on. A lot of which were filmed in New York, but a lot of which were filmed in LA. And this is when me and Paula initially thought about doing a lot of these royalist podcasts together. We did kind of think that with Harry and Meghan being so based in LA, Paula would be able to bring a lot of that intel. Well, I can still bring a lot of the intel from the sort of posh people in England, as it were. I mean, to put it very simply. But Paula, tell us this: what does an executive producer actually do?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting too is that they were announced as they're producing it. But if you look at it, they are not. They are executive producing. Executive producers, it's usually it's a fawning title that you give for somebody who brings in the funding and who may own the rights to the name of the project you want to complete. They are supposed to be hands off. Now, again, Archewell is named as a producer, which is hilarious, again, because Archewell at this point is just a vanity project. And it's interesting to me because I did write a story for News Nation last week and on my Substack about the fact that Netflix may do work with them, dabble with them in the future, but they will never let those two do anything alone because it turns into a huge mess. With Love, Meghan, she had picked out the director, she had picked out everything. 3 months in, they had to cancel it, get another one. That was provided by Netflix, said, please go with Tony Bourdain's person, it'll be better, blah, blah, blah. Everything she does, she's indecisive. She also doesn't have the right instincts, if you will. So they are supposed to be executive producers right here. They're not really supposed to be doing anything, okay? Archewell is a producer, but as you pointed out, there's 2 people in a broom closet. So It's going to be very interesting. I do understand why they put them together with Josh and Stephanie, who did Gossip Girl, and made them hire a very good writer, Francesca Hu, because between Francesca, Josh, and Stephanie, if there are issues, they can kind of work around Harry and Meghan. Now, the bigger issue is executive producers are supposed to have, final say. Of course, because you can, Harry's going to be like, it's my favorite sport. I love it. Don't demean my sport. you know, as he's wont to do because
Sorry, could you do that again? I didn't quite catch.
It's my boy. I love it. Horses, come to me. But, I think that Josh, Stephanie, and Francesca at least will have a sense of what people actually want to watch instead of, I don't know, again, paint dry. But, it'll be interesting. And I do think at this point, they need a win. They need any win. They need a win. They need something. So they will be convinced to and go away as long as it's a win. But are they in charge? No. Are they attached? Was it a gift? Sure was. And as I said before, sure hope they own that name and Jilly Cooper's people don't come after them.
Let's hope so. With any luck, Ben is pulling up a clip, hopefully about the WME connection. Let's see. Now, this might be about the top talent, but let's just play it, Ben. No, this is not WME. So this is about the top talent. So this is a really, really interesting point that Donnelly made. So he said there is a layer of headache that comes with working with this couple that people don't want because the yield is not there, because, as he put it, because the return is not there. And he pointed, of course, to the famous example, which he described as a moment in pop culture history, no less, when there was this big argument about the photos going online at Kris Jenner's party, and they basically got caught making up this lie about saying that they hadn't given consent. When they made up this lie about a consent form, it ended with the resignation of Meredith Maines. They're very highly paid and highly thought of head of PR at the time. It was a big disaster, which he described as a five-car PR pile-up, which, again, I have to say, Hollywood is in this man's blood. But here's a clip of Matt explaining why they are difficult to work with. Why do you think that top talent don't want to work with them? Is it, again, this thing of just the brand's toxic? You don't want to be seen with somebody who's kind of on the downward slope. It's better to be with people who are on the upward slope. Is it just the fickleness of Hollywood, or are they genuinely just not delivering?
I think it's sort of a double-edged sword, because I think on one way I could absolutely see talent not wanting the added layer of headache. These are a highly scrutinized couple that often press breaks bad around them. So it might be a curse of just like how they're covered. But then, as you see from my report, what kind of partners they are, at least for my sources, and how they work, and sort of like, the process by which they want to influence and touch material might be seen as too invasive. So if you're coming on board to partner with someone who's a massive, prolific producer of film and television, do you really want to humor opinions and feedback from people who've never really done this outside of unscripted projects about themselves?
Just get me one of everything. I love that. I love that, the way he goes. He's like, look, imagine you're like a massive player in Hollywood. Do you want to humor these two people who have no idea what they're doing, who've done one successful reality show?
Right. But also, here's the other problem, Tom. These people have no concept of partnership. So even to say we're partners, we're this, we're that, it's a big problem. Number one, because Harry has no idea how to be a partner. He was raised as prince of the castle, not king, but prince. And so everyone did what Harry wanted. Meghan then comes in and sees how people treat Harry and says, I want to be treated the same way from here on out. Now, do I think she was always like that a little bit? Yes, I do. However, they're both still acting like they're royals, and everyone should bow down to them. And that doesn't happen in Hollywood, not unless you got Bezos money or Oprah money. And, you know, they're venal. We get it. But the other thing is, they don't, because they're like this, you say, okay, let's work together. No, they ain't taking you for nothing. They don't want your opinion. They don't want anything because they are right. They don't know, but somehow it's divine right that they are right. So it's very difficult, very frustrating. And of course, people don't want to be a part of it. Matt also talked about the Kardashian fiasco at Chris's birthday. And, you know, it's one of the reasons why I believe Meghan thought she had a chance to go to the Met Gala. Remember last year, Tom, when she was like, fashion is my new thing again. Everyone loves my fashion. Back to me. Balenciaga. And of course, Balenciaga was like, oh, we didn't invite her. She just asked. We were like, fine. But it didn't move their needle. And she wants to go to the Met Gala. But after Kris Kardashian, everyone in Hollywood is saying, look what she did to Kris. She made the entire party about herself. No one cared about the other photos. All they cared about were the screenshots of Harry looking at Kris's boobs and did not cover anything. Lauren Sanchez Bezos and Jeff Bezos were barely mentioned, and it was their $160 million house. In a regular world, somebody would have been like, how did they design a $160 million house? No, they take up the oxygen. People don't want
it. Okay. One way to solve the problem of top talent not wanting to work with you in Hollywood, I believe, Paula, is to get a very powerful agent. And these agencies are, of course, were described to me once as a many-headed beast. They represent all different kinds of people. Meghan is signed with WME. And guess what? It just turns out that everyone else involved in Polo is signed with WME as well. Let's hear what Matt has to say, and then I'll tell you what the Sussex response to this was today. And then we'll hear Paula's response to that response, perhaps. Does that sound like a plan, Paula?
I've got so much to say on it. Go, Tom.
That almost 3 years after that idea and that package floated inside the Archewell offices at Netflix, the offices that Netflix pay for, suddenly there's such a fever around the Polo drama that they absolutely could not resist Netflix but to pick this title up for development. Another thing I'd like to point out. All three parties creatively, that's Meghan and Harry, Josh Schwartz and Stephanie Savage, and this writer, Francisca Hu, are all represented by WME, which was the agency that Meghan signed with in 2023, as I reported, to bolster her profile and find creatives that would actually work with them.
Well, here's what Sussex say in response to that. Basically, they say that it is not uncommon for, they added it was far from uncommon for a package to be created by an agency such as WME. And I mean, that is true, right? That is categorically true.
Yes,
the agencies are incredibly powerful now. But
it is.
I mean, what do you say? Do you think Matt's right, or do you think Sussex are right, or are both right?
I think they're both right. The thing is, Tom, agencies want to keep the money and the money flowing in the building, right? So they got a pad, they got this. Oh, we've got a producer who can do it. We'll take 10% there. We've got an actor who can do it. So that is completely normal. What is fascinating to me is that we talk about WME all the time, but I broke a story last year that WME wasn't really their first choice. You know, Meghan used to be rep by UTA. Then she dropped them because the two top tier agencies are WME and CAA. And so she really was after CAA, and CAA refused to even take a meeting because they're friendly. They have people who are friendly with the royal family, and they were not cool with what went down over Megxit. So she had to basically go with WME, whose founder, Ari Emanuel, can't stand her, won't be in a room with her.
Fascinating. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Ben, do we have any more clips lined up to look at, or are we nearly there? Because I can smell some delicious food being prepared in another room, and I am hungry.
Me too.
The ultimate verdict there is that they're a bit tiresome, and that the yield, what this partnership has produced, has not quite been meaningful.
And I suppose that's the key point, isn't it? I mean, you can be as exhausting, as tiresome, as demanding, as difficult as you want. If the yield is there, people, I imagine, will forgive anything in terms of making a huge amount of money. Why no one would care, right? But
Absolutely.
the message clearly seems to be that they have failed when it comes to making a huge amount of money.
Oh yes, or at least providing a significant return on investment. I mean, that said, the docu-series, which was, you know, sort of the asset everyone in town wanted, this 6-episode, you know, incredibly inside look at Meghan and Harry's decision to leave the UK and come to Los Angeles, and all of you know, the incredibly juicy and also historic, if you think about it, details therein, that premiered and still rates as Netflix's highest unscripted project ever. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a project that has made as much noise as Meghan and Harry, which is now multiple years old. And I think the overwhelming answer is no, we haven't moved past Meghan and Harry and their personal machinations. And they've yet to produce something that's significantly culturally impactful outside of their own story.
Yeah, so fascinating analysis there from Matt Donnelly, the chief correspondent of Variety, speaking to me yesterday on the Royalist podcast, which Paula is my regular guest on. And Paula, unlike Ted Sarandos and Bella Bajaria, does not mind talking smack about talent, that's for sure.
I do not, thank goodness.
Yeah, one other thing I thought that Matt said that was really interesting was that his research confirms that the amount of money that has gone out of Netflix into Archewell is $60 million. That's what he thought it was. I mean, that's a chunk of change, right?
It's a chunk of change, and most of it, I mean, we could have put it in the fireplace and lit it on fire, and it would have, I don't know, done a better job. I mean, it's not even in their bank accounts. So a lot of people are saying, oh, well, maybe 60 million just went straight in their bank accounts. It did not. Harry and Meghan are a little bit desperate for cash right now. And a lot of that money went into paying people, doing stuff that was unnecessarily expensive, which is also the other problem. People don't want to work with them.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, someone who does want me is my dinner. So I'm going to go. Thank you so much, Paula. Amazing analysis. I hope you've enjoyed. Let us know what you think of this after show thing, because we might try and do it more often, because it was good fun. There's so much other stuff to talk about today. There were loads of mad stories, but we're not going to have time to get to them. We've got the King Charles pushback on Ascot. Yes, he is going to have Beatrice and Eugenie for Ascot. Well, can I just say that if Beatrice and Eugenie come for Ascot, I will have to order myself a specially edible hat, because I think I promised to eat my hat at one stage. So, but if they do come to Ascot, it'll be really interesting, because that even Charles putting that story in the paper is him trying to push back against the narrative that he's no longer controlling things, you know, that William is calling all the shots. So fascinating. Then we had Meghan doing a complicated flower arrangement, didn't we? That was pretty good. And then we had the CG string. We didn't even get started on the CG string.
Oh, but I'm sorry. My favorite part of about the Meghan flower thing is she's pulling leaves off a thing. It looks so hard. Girl, please. I mean, at that point, I was just waiting for oh, sorry, it's Beyonce.
So yeah, the other story that we didn't get to, that we may even have to do on the podcast on Tuesday, Paula, is that Harry, having stood up in court and said that the Daily Mail could only have obtained all the stories about him through unlawful information gathering, there was no other possible explanation, subsequently turned out that he was texting back and forth with a reporter from the Mail on Sunday, who was referring to her, she's called Charlotte Griffiths, who was referring to herself as CG string.
And
I mean,
not
I'm
only
not
that,
going to make the inference.
Not only that, but if you read into the emails, you're like, is this texting or sexting? And then of course he had the balls, or he had the balls to be like, I barely knew her. No, she was a plant. She was at this, she was at that. And you're like, she knew everyone in your circle. She knew you for years. It sounds like you guys might have hooked up at this weekend and that you were pretty close. So yeah, sure. But yet he went into court and was like, I don't know them.
I need to say something as well, which is that, again, I did go to Sussex for comment about Charlotte Griffiths things. And again, they didn't want to comment on the record, but a source close to Harry said Griffiths never disclosed the fact she was a journalist. And if anything, these messages prove her ability to blag and be deceptive. Everything Harry said in the witness box aligns with this. None of the group knew she was a journalist. He only met her once. And as soon as they knew who she was, he cut contact with her. It's really not complicated. I mean, look, that's what they're saying. I think the truth is that this case is an absolute disaster. I suspect they're going to win on one very narrow case, which is the airline ticket blagging, which I think it's pretty clear that Rachel English did pay this guy, Mike Baer. But, you know, maybe the judge will say, look, on balance, that, you know, this should
all
not
BS.
have been brought by them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be till the summer now. They've finished the case, but it's not going to be till the summer we get the verdict. It's not a jury trial. It's just the judge. The judge now has to sit down. And interesting detail, apparently Judge Nicklin and David Sherborne were in chambers together as young men. And
yes, and hated each other. And this is, I mean, I love it when some people are like, I don't understand why you're so fascinated. Again, I'm like, it's a soap opera. The days of our Montecito lives.
Plum has commented. Plum has joined us. That is actually Plum. I know, because that's right. She says, can we do flower arranging next week, please? I'm an expert. So there we are. Great. Plum, lovely to see you. Sorry you couldn't join us. I did invite her to join us, but she's very busy because she's been in Paris and she's packing to go home.
I know, I saw that. I was
having you as well on the show yesterday. Thank you so much. And Paula, thank you so much. And Ben, our fabulous producer, thank you so much. You've done an amazing job getting all these clips with us just shouting random things that we want. And it's not easy. So thank you very much. And most of all, thank you to you, our beautiful viewers and listeners and watchers who, well, we don't have any official figures yet from the podcast people, but it's going well. Let's just say that. And we love you. Thank you so much. Bye.
And we thank you. Mwah.